Hi, I'm Nikki, the Obsessive Bookseller. Welcome to my channel. Today I'd like to review Ruby Fever by Ilona Andrews. It's book 6 in the Hidden Legacy series, and believe it or not, my most anticipated release of 2022. With all the sci-fi fantasy that I normally read. An urban fantasy about a magical family. Yeah, that's the one I was most looking forward to, and I'm so excited that I got a chance to read an early copy of it. And how did it come to be held in such high regard? Well, these authors have been dazzling me since I discovered their Kate Daniels series. And actually, I read the first Kate Daniels and didn't really like it that much, but people kept saying, read on, it gets so much better. And it did, and now they are top 5 favorite authors easily. And I held off on reading this particular series for so long because of the covers. They scream paranormal romance, which the arc of a paranormal romance is usually whether or not the characters get together. That's the main driving point of the story. Whereas in urban fantasy, the main driving point of the story is usually, are they going to defeat the bad guy? And I very much prefer the latter. And although these are published by Avon and the covers would have you believe there's a heavy romance arc, not really. Especially compared to some of the main staple urban fantasy series out there like Mercy Thompson, Kim Harrison. Sookie Stackhouse has a ton more romantic content in it than this series does, but you wouldn't know it. In any case, the romance was a secondary plot. It worked to enhance the relationships between the characters, and I thought it was just enough to add that element satisfactorily, but they kept the focus on the really cool magic systems of this world. There are different houses, and each one has kind of a different magical specialty, and they interbreed with caution because they don't want to mess up their lineages. And there's such a wide variety of types of magic that it's so much fun to read about. It's my favorite aspect of the entire series. I love good world building. So if you love kind of superhero stories or like kids with special ability stories but want something a little more robust and a little less cheesy, this one is a really good pick. So conceptually it's a lot of fun, but I also really love the family that we're following in this series. The Baylors are a hoot. They've got such a wide array of personalities, and I'm connected to every one of the characters and feel deeply distraught when one of them is in peril, and that kind of deep connection doesn't happen very often. I really love how they did that. And also, each one of their stories has a compelling mystery element to it. Their writing style is cheeky and on point, their pacing is phenomenal, and usually their momentum is unmatched in the urban fantasy world. I love how well they build their stories up to a really satisfying culmination of events. And as this is the final arc in Catalina's story, no exception here. I loved everything that happened in this book. Well, almost everything. There was one plot point that really got emphasized in the second book that I thought was going to get more of a big moment in this finale. It was the one thing I was most interested to seeing resolved and seeing how the character handle it, but it was kind of thrown in as an afterthought. It wasn't really resolved to my satisfaction. And whether or not that means we're going to get more on it in future books, I don't know. But, okay, so I've heard that the authors had a really hard time writing this book. It was giving them so many problems. They hated working on it for a lot of times. And I read that on their website. This is from their writing that I'm picking up that information. So I'm half wondering if they had so many things that they needed to cram into this final book, if it is indeed the last one in the series, that they just ran out of room to cover everything. That's kind of what it felt like. They said this is the end of their contract with Avon with these 6 books, but we have one more sister to go in the series, Arabella. The epilogue for this one was probably my favorite single moment in the entire story. I loved the epilogue. It promised so much more to come, and I'm really hoping they continue this series even if they have to self-pub. I will totally buy anything that they produce. Overall, I really enjoyed my time with this book, and I'm giving it a solid 4 out of 5 stars. Let's talk about other books you might like. First of all, if you're interested in these authors but are a little too intimidated by the Hidden Legacy covers, start with Kate Daniels. The first book was a hard sell for me. I did not enjoy it, but keep reading. Oh my gosh, by the time I hit the 3rd book, I was a super fan, consuming even the short stories of this world, just wanting more. I loved it so much. Beautiful momentum building, lots of cool side story novels that you get. It's awesome. Give the first book some slack, but then like brace yourself. It gets awesome. Next, the Mercy Thompson series by Patricia Briggs, also in tandem with the Alpha Omega stuff. I feel like this is one of the stronger introductions into the urban fantasy world, a very accessible book. I like the main character, I like the basic plot structure of the whole thing, and what you're getting here is a foundation for something that has grown into one of the most satisfying urban fantasy worlds on the market. The characters are awesome, the plot is fast-paced, and the supernatural element just gets better and better with each book. Dead Witch Walking by Kim Harrison, first book in the Hollow series. This is not my all-time favorite urban fantasy, but my single favorite moments from any urban fantasy happened in this series. This one's written more like a traditional fantasy in the sense of the pacing is very slow. You spend a lot of time with the characters, very deep, immersive writing. And the spell work done in here is so intricate and fun to read about, very detailed stuff that makes you think it's plausible. The sidekicks in this series are also hard to beat. They are phenomenal, so much fun to read about. The humor's great. I love anything to do with the demons. This one has a lot to do with demons, but not in a super dark horror way. So yeah, this one's definitely a top pick. I do remember it took a few books in before I was really sold on the series, but I know I was enjoying myself while I was reading them. Now I'm so far gone that I can't get enough Hollows. Nice Dragons Finish Last by Rachel Aaron, book 1 of the Heartstriker series. The reason I'm suggesting this one is Hidden Legacy did a really good job at building family dynamics and having kind of conflicts within that. I feel like if you want a good, not icky family drama story, this one is awesome, except for in an urban fantasy setting, this is a family of dragon shifters. And Hidden Legacy did a really good job of creating overall concept. Ilona Andrews is really good at kind of mashing up a little bit of fantasy elements with their urban fantasy genre. And I mean, this book is the epitome of mashup. You've got an urban fantasy voice, fantasy concepts with the dragons, an accessible story, kind of like a young adult, young characters, but without any of the tropes or any of the problems that come along with that. This series is a ton of fun and I highly recommend it. And finally, Dark Currents by Jacqueline Carey. It's book 1 in the Agent of Hell trilogy. This one's a little more off the beaten path. Don't go into this expecting anything like Kushiel's Dart. I think what makes this one the most recommendable, oddly, is how short it is. It's only a trilogy. It wraps itself up pretty good. It's got a lot of fun concepts. Ilona Andrews, I feel like their paranormal components can't be beat as a whole. They just have so much variety of things and they do everything well. In this case, I thought the creature creation in here was done well also. And just kind of the same vibes between the two series. So I think if you like that one, you'll like this one. And that wraps it up. I want to take a minute to thank my patrons. Thank you so much for supporting my channel and my content. I really appreciate you. And thank you to everyone watching. I hope to catch you next time. Bye.